Why would you listen to my advice about creating YouTube videos? I haven't had a lot of success. I've made like 9 videos and none of them have more than 8 views, but I have experience. And I can tell you some of the places that I went wrong and some of the lessons that I learned. See, that is an example of an anti-authority, and it's just one of 5 types of credibility that will help you build trust. If you stick around, I'll show you how credibility can help you build trust with your messaging. Credibility answers one question: why should I believe you? It doesn't take a doctor to tell you that smoking's bad for you. And you don't have to have expertise. What you need is better signals. So I'm going to show you 5 different types of credibility you can use to make your messaging and content more believable. And we're starting out with number 1, which is the authority. This is the doctor, the financial expert, somebody that has credentials, they have degrees, they have certificates, they can show that they have experience. It's the professional, and you'd believe them because why not? They do this every day. And this is not always easily accessible because you can't just tap a professional on the shoulder and say, hey, would you like to jump into my content and tell somebody why this product is better than the other? However, what you can do is use the professional's advice in your content to help sell it and get your message across. So authority is one example you can use to get your content more believable. Number 2 is an anti-authority. So I mentioned this earlier in the video when I talked about my experience with YouTube. This is somebody that has tried it, maybe they failed, maybe they haven't yet succeeded, but this is the everyday person just like you that you want to find out what obstacles they've encountered, how they've overcome them. You want to find out what steps to avoid and what works, what actually works. So using this type of credibility is good because it's the closest thing to somebody starting out. All right, so similar to an anti-authority is the experiential credibility. Experiential credibility is somebody that maybe has the experience doing it and they've succeeded, and you want to know what their path is. They have taken the rigorous training plan and now they've been able to run a marathon. So you want to learn how they did it. This is somebody that can give you experiential advice. They may not be able to tell you every method that works. Their advice may not be scalable, but they can tell you what worked for them. So this is somebody that's worth listening to. And when you're looking for credibility in your messaging and content, experiential credibility is not hard to find. If you can find somebody that's reached that goal and interview them to share their experience, you will be able to gain the trust of your viewers, your audience, and you'll be able to get your message a lot more believable. Okay, 4th is borrowed credibility. And if you've ever heard the Frank Sinatra song, New York, New York, you've heard the line, New York, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. This is borrowed credibility. This is where you use another person or another place's experience to set your bar, because if you've worked for that person, you can achieve it. To illustrate this, imagine that you're planning a wedding. It's your wedding, and you want the perfect photographer. Photographer A has experience. They've been doing photography for about 10 years. They've photographed hundreds of weddings. But when you look at their portfolio, it just it's bland. Photographer B, however, hasn't been doing this for long, but they have photographed a celebrity event. It's very exciting to think that your wedding can be photographed by the same person that photographed this celebrity event. Well, this is borrowed credibility. You might choose photographer B, but it appeals to you because it's a celebrity, they photographed them, and you can kind of name drop that when you tell others who photographed your wedding. All right, finally is statistical credibility. This is where you use numbers. Numbers are very believable, but I'm going to give you a tip. When you're using numbers, scale them up. So for example, if somebody told you that they're an investor and they lost $10 million over a year, that's pretty interesting. But then if you were to say that same message, that's the equivalent of losing $27,000 a day for a course of a year. Okay, that scales it, makes it a little bit more intriguing, and it helps you realize the true impact. Another example of this might be to tell somebody that they use over 30 days of their year checking email. That's a lot more impactful than to say you spend about 2 hours a day checking your email. So you can see when I scale the numbers, I can get the point across a lot more. It makes it more believable, more shareable. The content sticks. So use numbers, statistical credibility to get your point across, to get people to believe you. But make sure you ask yourself, can I scale this to a larger time frame? Can I scale it to the whole company? What will make the biggest impact when I communicate this number? All right, so those are your 5 types of credibility. You've got the authority, the anti-authority, the experiential credibility, the borrowed credibility, and then the statistical credibility. If you can leverage one of those 5 ways to get your point across, then it's gonna be a lot more believable and your audience is gonna share it because it makes an impact. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been another take from the book, Made to Stick by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Please be sure to stick around. We're gonna do 2 more videos in this series and then we're gonna go on to another topic.